You know, many people with AIDS or many people that are going through the dying process are obnoxious and very demanding. And what
hundreds of people come to Shanti as volunteers. The public in general is fearful of people with AIDS, and that fear is often compounded by a lack of sympathy, springing from the fact that the virus has spread mainly among homosexuals and drug addicts. Most of these volunteers, however, know someone who has AIDS or someone who has died, or have themselves tested positive for the virus. They are training to help patients and their families through the emotional turmoil of the disease.
It's also very difficult when you prepare yourself for your loved one to die, and then they don't die. You know, and the respirations start to slow down, and you think, oh God, you know, it's going to maybe be in 48 hours, and the next day it's even worse, and you think, well, maybe it's going to happen, and then you totally give them that last amount of your energy, and then suddenly the next morning they rally, they're feeling good, and you think, oh my God, how am I going to do this for another 2 months? You know, and that's hard stuff to talk about.
At these training sessions, one of the instructors is Bobby Reynolds, a native San Franciscan. His parents are dead, and his only close relative is a sister. In 1982, his doctor diagnosed him with Kaposi's sarcoma skin cancer, one of the primary diseases that strike people with AIDS.
I expected that he would tell me everything was fine over the phone, when in fact he said, I'm sorry, it's positive. So I went into shock.
Living with AIDS these past 4 years has been an incredible experience. I treasure the lessons that I have learned.
Today, Bobby Reynolds is a rarity. The life expectancy of a person with AIDS is about 18 months, but chemotherapy successfully controlled his cancer. He has become a prominent advocate of the rights of people with AIDS, all the while mindful that, with his immune system damaged by the virus, his body is defenseless against any disease that may come along.
What is right now is that I'm doing pretty good. And what's possible is a lot. You know, there's a lot possible. So.
When I was first diagnosed, people gave me, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff, coffee enemas.
They need someone to hang their hope on. They need to have somebody to be a role model for them. And I think I have been able to do that.
And so beyond dealing with your decision about how you want to be, you end up having to deal with all this other stuff that's out there.
I told my brother before I got pregnant that, you know, I wasn't sure how things would be between us because I didn't want to take any chances with my kids. Every doctor I talked to said that I shouldn't have any contact with my brother because they just don't know.
It was the kind of thing, well, if nobody can tell us what's going on, then, gee, you know, what are you supposed to do?
Although they live just a few miles apart, Bobby and Susan have scarcely seen each other in the 2.5 years since her twin boys were born.
I told him that I would try and keep in touch with him on the phone, which I did. And every week it would be like he'd get a little cooler. And we finally just more or less cut off communications. He told me that it was like I had rejected him, and he just couldn't deal with it right now. And I couldn't do much about it because I figured, hey, you know, I'm pregnant. I'm not going to get pregnant again. I can't take any chances. I don't want anything to happen to my baby.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of people have heard me speak and were able to look at AIDS through different eyes. And I have touched men in support group, and I have touched their families, and I have been able to help them find some ways of dealing. And you know, she's my sister.
He'd like Sue to be able to just jump and go, but
with 3 kids and Rod, I can't.
It's just not possible. I mean, it's family first, and unfortunately it's family too, but it's immediate family, and then it's the rest of the family.
I realized that they say casual contact, you probably wouldn't get AIDS. but they can't guarantee it. You know, as much as my mind says, hey, it's okay, my heart says, well, it may be okay, but I still don't know.
You know, I've never told my sister that she was wrong for being afraid, but some of her fears are irrational. And if she's going to continue being afraid, there's someday that I may die, and she will never have been able to cope with those fears.
Hi! Look at you! You're getting ready for the party. I am.
The initial test results were a surprise and a relief. The pains appeared to stem from an ulcer.
Look great.
It's all I've been doing, actually, since I got over the shock of it, was laughing. And when I call people to tell them that all the test results were negative and that they're treating me for an ulcer, they all say, oh, great, it's only an ulcer. So...
Yeah, Dr. Mahalka was running further tests on Bobby Reynolds. His ulcers were not as benign as they appeared.
Well, actually, it did turn out to be herpes. We got a culture report back yesterday and started him on anti-herpes medicine in an oral form. It can be serious and it can spread to other areas, but the main part of this is it's associated usually with an incredible amount of pain, and people are not able sometimes to even swallow their own saliva.
So here it is now, like a week and a half after that started, and I'm feeling pretty good. But I'm still having fevers at night, and I'm starting to have night sweats.
Until last year, Bobby counted on his lover Mark to see him through the bouts of sickness and the fear of dying from AIDS. They had been together for 8 years, but Mark died last fall.
Mark. He had his good points and bad points, as we all do. He was a little arrogant. He was very strong-willed about certain things. But we had fun.
When Bobby was diagnosed in 1982, Mark was apparently healthy, but in April of '85, he too was diagnosed, struck by cancer and a debilitating paralysis. The disease progressed quickly in Mark.
And I truthfully admit that I miss being able to go to restaurants and go to a movie. I mean, I'm just not mobile enough to do that, and those things are still important. I want to work. You know, I want to go in my kitchen and cook. I want to be able to help him work in the backyard. And
when I tried to prepare myself as much as possible because I knew his death was inevitable, but you really can't. He went into respiratory failure, and he had done that twice before, so I called just automatically for the ambulance, the paramedics, but he was gone. He was the most important person in my life for a long time. And I think that says it all for anybody, no matter what your sexual preference is. You have somebody in your life that's the most important person. And that's who he was, is. What's next? So I'll live it and I'll breathe it and I'll eat it for so long, and then I'll say, break time, you know. Let's go blow bubbles, let's go read a murder mystery, or let's just unplug the phone and forget about it. Luckily I can do that.
The epidemic has become a political phenomenon. Candlelight memorials in San Francisco and elsewhere have turned into rallies against discrimination.
Cleve, let me get a light. I think they're going to start.
AIDS is a frightening disease, but to those who have it, public opinion is frightening and threatening as well.
People's fears are real, but they may not understand what my lifestyle is like, but they understand that I'm a person, that I'm hurting, so that they don't send me off to hell just because I'm a gay man or just because I have AIDS.
Together, the citizens of San Francisco will continue making a difference. Together, my friends, together, For we are a family, and we are not alone. Keep looking for the rainbows. Thank you.